for having me today. I have the cool topic from data source to reporting on Google Cloud Platform. Maybe I can see some hands who are already familiar with BigQuery. That's good. Who's already familiar with dataform? That's good too. And who has already ingested some kind of data? And I didn't mean Google Analytics data. Oh, I see a lot of hands. That's cool. Anyway, to my person, I'm Peter Sandmann. I'm head of data platform. I'm 33 years old. I'm since 8 years at FUNKE. This pick was a few weeks after I arrived. This is a downfall, what happens if you're working 8 years with Google. So let's start. So what is FUNKE Digital, or the FUNKE Media Group? I think no one hears about this. It's a publishing business. So we have a lot of brands located in Germany, in Bavaria, in Berlin, Munich, Hamburg, Lower Saxony, and we have different kind of domains here. Maybe some of them you know already, or you read something of them, or your parents read something of them. I think that could be more. And each of this domain or portal has its own business goal. For example, one is more in subscription business, more in the ad-driven revenue, and try to increase the ad revenue. And we from FUNKE Digital, we have two central teams, and one is the data platform team, and one is the ad technology and monetization team. We have more than 500 million views per month on our pages, 3 billion events on our page, and we have more than 1 billion ad impressions on our pages per month. So before I show you what we did, maybe it's good to know how it started. How do we use it, or why do we use it, what we're using? So we're starting 8 years ago. I'm sitting in an office in Berlin. We're located in Berlin, and I arrived the first question from some department that's saying, hey, dude, I see you're doing something with data. Where can I find all the analytics data from all the domains? I'm saying, yeah, watching Google Analytics, I think you will find everything what you need for. Then they're telling me, yeah, but I want to know it for all the domains. Then I'm saying to him, yeah, looking in the raw properties to find everything what you need. And then saying, I have some kind of struggling with sampling data. It's too complicated in analytics. Then we arrive another question from another location. They're asking us, where can I find the subscription data for all the domains? I mean, which kind of subscription data are you talking? And then he told me, yeah, we have a paid content model on our pages. We want to know which kind of article has the most subscription, which kind of subscriber do we have. Then the next question up here, and I'm sitting in the office and thinking, what's going on here? And how are the advertising revenues for all the domains? Because we have to know how much revenue do we have today, yesterday, the last week, the last month. It's really important to control all the domains do we have, and it's just looking is everything working well as expected. From another location, we're receiving how many users listen to our podcast, how many email subscribers do we have, or from the newsletter. And all the stuff arrives to our department because we have the name data in our team name, and so anyone thinking we have the kind of data. And some question what we always reading, or is something, do we have comparable benchmark data from the market? So how are other publishers, do they struggling with the same issues like we have? So what is the motivation? We want to avoid to coming in this situation, and we want to be this person. If someone in the department at FUNKE asking us, where are the data, we want to say, here are the data, or here are the data. So this is the goal, what we're saying to us each day. We don't want to be this person. Maybe to give more context, what is our timeline? So we started in 2016, I think how the most of them started with Google Analytics 260. We're starting with the Tag Manager, works really well. 2017, Google announced some cool tool, Data Studio, and we're thinking, yeah, it's a good solution for us. Everyone can look in the Data Studio and find the reports. 2018, Google Cloud Salesman appears and saying, hey, do you want to try a jumpstart, a kickstart, to look what Google Cloud Platform can offer you? And I'm thinking, yeah, it's a good idea, let's start. And then we're starting to using the Google Cloud Composer. We're starting to BigQuery. We're seeing, oh, cool, we have raw data. It makes so much sense to query on raw data. Then we're seeing dataform. Dataform is a cool data modeling tool. And then we're starting in the last year more and more with streaming our data inside our data warehouse. So what does the current stack looks like? It looks like, if you read a Medium article, it looks like this. It isn't. We have it FUNKE Digital, we have three kind of layers. We have the first layer is the ingestion layer. We separate it in two parts. The first one is the streaming layer, and the second one is the batch layer. What do I mean with batch layer? The batch layer is all the data where we get from an endpoint. Then we have the storage and transform layer and the data lake. So we store most of our data in the Google Cloud storage, and then we import it to BigQuery, then we're modeling as a BigQuery data form, and in the end we have the visualization layer. And the important part is the green thing on the bottom is the Google Cloud Composer for our orchestration part here. So how do we work really on an efficient way here? Because we're seeing it's a lot of services. So we're making strict rules. We have a cloud data engineer who, I swear to God, he looks like this. He is responsible for the ingestion layer. He is responsible for this kind of tool set, for the streaming layer, for the batch layer, and for the orchestration layer. Then we have an analytics engineer and a data analyst. I swear to God, he looks like this. And he's responsible for BigQuery, for connection, make it a connection to the Looker Studio so that can anyone see the data in Looker Studio. And then, of course, we have the user. They didn't look like this, but it makes sense to show them. And we're saying on FUNKE Digital, we're making the self-service BI. So I'm bored to getting questions like, how many pages do we have yesterday? What is the most read article? I don't want to do something like this, so we're making a self-BI. We make a connection to Looker Studio, and then they can get the data for themselves. But let's look inside. How do we, because we're looking inside how we do that, the batch layer. The batch layer, we have our Google Cloud Data Engineer, who looks like this. What is the Cloud Composer in a nutshell? The Cloud Composer in a nutshell is based on an open source solution, like the most solution in GCP, and it's on Apache Airflow. And it's a workflow orchestration service. This is how a DAG, we call it workflow in this use case, looks like. You define a task, and a task. The first task what we define is get data from this endpoint. Then we define a task. If you get the data, save it in the Google Cloud storage. And then we define the next task, load it to BigQuery. You can schedule it as different approaches. You can schedule it with the event if something new arrives on the Google Cloud storage, or you can use it or schedule the time trigger here. How it looks like in our use case. We at FUNKE Digital, we have several kinds of data inside in our Google Cloud Composer, or getting from the Google Cloud Composer. We're asking SEO data. What I mean with this, Search Console data. I know Google offers that he exports this Search Console data, but we have more than 100 domains, and 100 Google Cloud projects would be insane. So we have a lot of ad revenue data because we have the Google Ad Manager. We want to know how much revenue do we have with all our domains. We have market data. We have video data, subscription data, of course. We're gathering data from Facebook, from podcast audio, Google My Business, and email. And the good thing is, it looks like every time like this. It's a really simple, straightforward approach. The icon on the top, what you see, our cloud data engineer is responsible for this. If we look in the Google Cloud Composer, we see a lot of DAGs. And in our rules, we're making one DAG as one endpoint. And we have more than 100 DAGs and 100 endpoints, and we have a time scheduling here. So we're talking with the vendor, or asking the question to the vendor, on which kind can we asking the data, on which time do you have the data? And this is what we define in the DAG here. Why should we use this? This is one use case what we have. We have a podcast, like every publisher has. We have 8 different reports, because each location has its own report, its own credential, its own login. So what it means, if you have one person who do it manually, he has to log in each domain, has to download the report, and then merge it in one file. What we do here is, on the same time, we query the 8 endpoints, getting the data, and transfer it to BigQuery, and have it in one BigQuery destination table. So instead of looking in 8 tables, we're looking only in one table. This is what this DAG, for example, does. For more than 100 DAGs, you have to do, or to live the approach dry. Don't repeat yourself. For some function we are writing for our own, we have a helper script where we outsource all the scripts. So if we update one function, we want to avoid to do it in each DAG. We do it in one place. It is yeah, I think it makes absolutely sense, and it's so easier to maintain all the scripts. Why I love the Google Cloud Composer, especially as a head of, is I know what I have to pay for the next month because it's really constant, because you're paying only for the infrastructure what you have. And another cool thing is why we're thinking it's an absolutely great solution for us, more DAGs, so workflows, endpoints, and a new data source appears, something like this. It doesn't mean that we have increased our billing. So it's a really constant build, what we see here over the months. And yeah. But what about when we need more power? If we want to getting data from Facebook, if we want getting data from recommendation engine, who has a lot of data, high data volume. So what we do here, Google announced a service like Cloud Run. Cloud Run in a nutshell, flexibility, scalability, managed and serverless. And the important thing for us, it's easy to parallelize. So I know the most of them, you know maybe Cloud Run from the server-side approach. Google Cloud has two different kinds of services. One is Google Cloud Run service, who was announced 2019. It runs continuously as a service. For example, web services, event processing, server-side Google Tag Manager. And last year, Google announced, hey, you can use Google Cloud Run jobs and to run the code until the work is done as a job. And I was thinking, yeah, that's a really good use case for us because we're looking for something like this. So examples here, data import, export, report generation, something like this. And what we do here, we're using the Google Cloud Composer. If we're seeing we have a high data volume and memory-intensive workflows, we outsource this function to Google Cloud Run job. So instead of get data from the endpoint, we're saying, hey, Google Cloud Run job, can you do this? Can you trigger, or can you get data from 300 Facebook pages? And it runs in 2 minutes, and we have the data in 2 minutes back in BigQuery because it's so insane quick. And you're only paying for this time the job is running. So our data engineer, after task completion, running away, looking for a new task, and then we're seeing the endpoint has a hiccup. The endpoint is deprecated. The endpoint has a new API. Something like this appears, and we're thinking, oh my God, how can we monitoring this? We have more than 40 data sources, and no one's looking 24 hours per day on a monitoring or a dashboard and watching is a green or a red or something like this. So what we do here, on a really simple way, we're saying, okay, if something in the Google Cloud Composer say us, hey, we have an error here, send it to Slack. Everyone has Slack on a mobile phone, on a desktop, and get a notification. How do this look like? We, the cloud data engineer, I swear to God, he looks like this, is responsible for this Slack channel. So if a new message appears, he knows which task failed, which tag failed, on which time it failed, or when did it fail, and a link to the logs where he can debug this. And everyone in the department and who's working at FUNKE knows exactly, we have an issue here, we have an issue here, or we have an issue here. Sometimes, or 90% of the cases, it's really like a hiccup from the data source, but yeah. Now, the first thing we finished, let's looking at the streaming layer. Of course, we from FUNKE, we have a streaming layer, because as publishing, you're looking to get the data as soon as possible, because it's a business. You have to know which kind of articles are read right now. Where are the people right now? How many active users do I have on my pages? It's a really important question for us. Google Analytics, especially Universal Analytics, we didn't have so much good experience with real time. I know GL4, everything is better. But we decided to go another way and saying, hey, Google announces cool services as well. So we have two different kinds of sources. We're receiving TV log files and we're receiving website events. Those are two use cases do we have. We have two triggers. The log files are storage data in the Google Cloud Storage, and the other side is web events, what happens on a website. It's coming to PubSub. PubSub, it's like, event message. You get the event, and you forwarded it to the right service. And now we have seen data flow based on an open source solution, Apache Beam, like everyone at Google. It's for the data processing service. And the good thing is, after we're proceeding the data, we store it in BigQuery as well. And we have the data in BigQuery again. What's really good for us? data flow pattern in a nutshell: you get events from PubSub, you validate events, you enrich events, and you write it to BigQuery. I see it yesterday, we're receiving on one time 3,000 events per second, and it works so good. Data flow is absolutely insane for that kind of use case. And yeah. But how do we monitoring this kind of services? Because this is not a DAG, not an endpoint, because it's a running service here. What we do here, we have a cloud monitoring and we add a threshold. We're saying, hey, if we're seeing that the PubSub, we have more than 20,000 messages that are unread, then something is going wrong. If we have in PubSub messages with more than 10,000 messages, something is going wrong. The cloud data engineer has a focus on the channel and seeing if something going wrong, he can fix it and can talk to each one. So the first layer we have completed. Let's look on the storage and transform layer. How do we do that? After all the data appears, dataform, I think Google acquired in the end of 2020, and then happens for 3 years nothing. But now they're integrated to BigQuery. And this is fits really good to us because we have all our data in BigQuery. Dataform is a data modeling platform. It has a version control. It's good because if some engineer is a bit stressed and doing something wrong, we can roll it back and the pipeline is working again. And you have a scalable data pipeline because you have using BigQuery. And BigQuery is really powerful at this use case. And another use case is you have a good data quality test, what you can do inside this. I changed the symbol. We have now, we're going in the area of responsibility of the analytics engineer here. We keep it simple, like everything what we do, keep it simple. We have 3 kinds of modeling stages. So after, we're saying we have a source level. The source level is this, where the ingested data arrives. So raw data from the batch and streaming layer coming to our sources layer, our sources data set. Then, what we're doing in the staging area, we take this table, or the analytics engineer takes the table, do something, transformation, cleaning data set, combine data sets, and at the end, we have a reporting level, who logical data tables, aggregated tables for specific use case, like how many pages do we have yesterday, how many users do we have yesterday, how many subscriptions do we have yesterday, and something like this. The cool thing in Dataform is if you once work in BigQuery, at some point it's going mess. Because you have a data set, you have tables, and what's really cool is in Dataform, you can organize your data sets with folder and subfolders. You have the declaration, staging, transform, and reporting, what we see here, and you can do a subfolder here, and you can add like a data source, like a business unit, something like this, and it's so easy to find, especially the data pipeline, and can organize it in a really good way. So the important thing, if the data arrives in BigQuery, we have to do one job in Dataform, take the declaration. The declaration is the relationship between the sources and then what happens with this data, because we want to do something with the data. This is how it looks like. Really simple. Yeah. Dataform SQLX is an extension. The good thing is you can use JavaScript, and you have a config section. You can define data definition language here. You're saying the name, the schema, and the type. So on which Google Cloud project, on which BigQuery project, and which BigQuery dataset do you want to create this table? You can make the partition by, cluster by, something like this in an easy way. So then, after this, the SQL statement is following, and we see the SQL statement. It's a simple SQL statement, nothing new, really special, but you see how it looks like. And our analytics engineer defined it once. And every time he will run the query, the table exists then. But why should you do this? The good thing in Dataform is you have a ref function, what means you reference to the data set. It's important to see the dependency and dependence on this query. So if you have a lot of queries, so example, Google Analytics raw data, then you have a staging data, then you have sessions per day, then you have sessions per day with a specific user ID, then you want to join it with subscription data, it will be mess to do it without something like this. And another important thing in dataform is it will run queries with the same tag in the right order, and this is important for us. So how does it look like? If you have growing and growing, it looks like this. It's because so many data sources appear, so many tables appear, so many views appear, so many declarations, so many operations, and all the stuff appears, and it would be insane to handle it without a tool like this. So another good thing why we're using dataform is you can define a config block, you can say some conditions. So for example, you can say, hey, event ID, you are unique, or hey, I didn't need any kind of null values here, or you can do some custom row conditions. If this fails, you're receiving a message on Slack and saying, hey, something in your pipeline, it's not like expected. You have to look at this. And this is how you add this in the SQL statement, and Google and dataform does the job for you and check is it right or not right. So then we have the analytics engineer comes to me and saying to me, I have beautiful pipelines from the source to staging to reporting, but how do queries the trigger? As here, we're talking with our cloud data engineer and saying, hey, after you get the news data and the news point, could you do me a favor, trigger our dataform pipeline? He's saying, what? I'm saying, yeah, you should trigger our dataform pipeline. And then he's asking me, okay, how you do it? And you do it in it's more for developers if you're interested in. How do we do it in Composer? We have an Airflow trigger operator who's do a simple Python script. But what is the important note here? It's the pipeline trigger, it's mentioned the tags who's running in the right order. And if this function's running, every SQL statement in our data warehouse running will have this tag. So we're saying in our ULIP data set here, we have 10 tables, and it will running in the right order after this tags were triggered. So how it looks like after we trigger this kind of pipeline, and it looks like this. You see it from the left to the right, and it's running in the right order, and at the end, we have a reporting table. So is something going wrong? Here's the same use case. We have a Slack message. The analytics engineer is responsible for this, and he knowing, okay, what's going wrong here, and can check this. And everyone else in the channel knowing something in the pipeline is going wrong. So we have complete this kind of areas. Coming to the last, I think this is really boring. This is the visualization layer. I think most of you building the beautiful dashboard. I think everyone can build beautiful dashboards, so we can't build beautiful dashboard, but we're trying it. But what is the message behind here? The message is all our Looker Studio reports or Apache Superset reports or something like this are connected with our reporting tables. So each Looker Studio what we have is connected with our data warehouse, with our BigQuery tables, and running to the earliest possible. So yeah, it's connected with them. And the user have the freshest data of what you need. And he can say, hey, I need a combination of this kind of data set, and we do it for him, pick it in a Looker Studio, and then he's happy. This is in a nutshell. So let's repeat. FUNKE Digital Processing in a nutshell, the batch way. We have a podcast data, we have a source. We're doing a simple Cloud Composer deck where we get data from the API, we save it in a storage, we load it to BigQuery, then the dataform trigger, then we're seeing it's moving to dataform, and then it's running the modeling. And after this, the user has already, or to each time, the freshest data in Looker Studio. And you're seeing if something going wrong in one step, we're receiving an error message in Slack. So why do we choose this way? Flexibility, you see Google announced a lot of services. It's absolutely cool to use for us. The quality is really good. We didn't see any kind of downtimes. And yeah, no one is perfect, but it's really good for us. The performance is insane. I mean, Azure, AWS, something like this, they're all good in some ways for us. GCP makes so much sense to use. And the cost is a really important thing for us. We're seeing the Composer. If we add new data source, we didn't have to pay for this because it's running in our Composer. Yeah. And to the end, to quote the Mandalorian, this is the way for us. Thanks.
Fantastic. Thank you for showing us the way, Peter.
Can I take the water here?
Excuse me? Yes, absolutely. Just half a bottle though, we still have a couple more. No, seriously, has anyone got some questions? Yes, over there. And while Jana is running over there, I love the setup, by the way. Fantastic.
Hello, my name is Fabian. Thanks a lot for this insightful presentation. My question is, when you get a new request from a user, like when one of those stormtroopers comes around, right, and they need something that hasn't been there before, how long does it take to cover a completely new use case with this stack?
Yeah, how long it takes? It depends a bit on the data source, but you see it in the deck. It's always the same procedure what we have implemented. So the data engineer, so I pick up the cloud data engineer, R2D2, and saying, come with me, we have a user here, and then he's saying he needs data from this kind of reports. Then we're looking, which kind of data do you need? I mean, a data source can have multiple endpoints, and we're saying, so which reporting are you looking for? And after this, a cloud data engineer goes back and then saying, yeah, I have found a way how we get the data. And after this, I think if we're getting the request one day.
One day.
One day. And then it's going to the data modeling part. I think this is mostly the complicated part, because you want to know on which time. Do you make an increment? Do you create a table? Do you create a view? So many ways to do it in BigQuery. Yeah, 1 day engineer part, 1 to 100 days in the analytics part, yeah.
And out of curiosity, how many people do you have in this team? Like, how many people do you need to make this platform happen?
I have 2 R2D2s and 2 C3POs, and I'm, manage this.
Thank you.
Okay.
He also gets his hands dirty, they told me, though. I think we have one more question. Yep. Okay. And obviously, Peter is going to be here still.
Oh, yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
Nice meeting you. Great presentation. So I'm still a noob in SQL and in BigQuery, and all the data you're looking at is BigQuery your whole truth, so you're not looking into any other platforms like Facebook or Google Analytics 4, because I've seen so many differences between those two. If I look at different dimensions, or if I just look at a broader time period. So I have so many differences, and I'm just not sure if I'm doing everything wrong, or if I just say, okay, that's the truth, and we will never look at anything else.
I'm trying to, if I understand it correctly. So the question is going more on the quality part. So how do we check if the data the same like in UI? Yeah,
so if there are any differences, do you say, well, GA4 is not correct, we only use the data from Google BigQuery we've collected, or do you still compare the data?
We still compare the data, and in most cases we're saying then we are querying on raw data and those are sampling data. It works in most cases, but we're trying to figure out why is the discrepancy here. And in most cases we find a way to find exactly the same numbers, but yes, we had it a lot. But we find a way then, and we're sitting with them together and saying, okay, this is the raw data, and then we're making a modeling part where BigQuery is really cool. You can select a data set, and then you can explore it in Looker Studio. And then we found a way how the raw data looks like this, what she wants. And yeah, this is the process what we're doing here.